Hi, I'm Nick Armstrong, and this is Dear Fort Collins. It's a podcast to discuss issues in and around Fort Collins, featuring experts from the city and the county and elected officials. Our goal is to help make you a more informed neighbor of Fort Collins. In particular, this series of the podcast, we are interviewing city council candidates and Poudre School District Board candidates as well. Now, I ran for city council in 2021, and I know how hard it was to connect with every single neighbor and spread the word about what my campaign stood for and why I was wanting to run. I wanted to give each of our candidates the opportunity to connect with you in a medium where you might be comfy on the couch or you might be driving in your car, but able to listen on your own time and get to know a little bit more about these candidates and why they're running and what they stand for so that you can make a more informed choice as a voter. Now, I do serve on the Parks and Rec Board for the City of Fort Collins, as well as the Box Elder Sanitation Board and my neighborhood HOA board. I'm not here in any of those capacities. I'm here as a private citizen, and my hope is that using this podcast, you can become a more informed voter and make a more informed choice when you go to the ballot. With that, let's bring in our candidate. And we're here with Jessica. Jessica, introduce yourself.
Hi, so I'm Jessica Zamora, and I am running for Poudre School District School Board in District G.
So Jessica, why are you passionate about the Poudre School District, and what encouraged you to run for the school board?
Yeah, so I'm actually a career educator. I've been teaching in some capacity for almost 15 years. I've been a high school teacher, I've been a GED teacher, I've done K-12 tutoring, and I currently am an adjunct at a few different community colleges. So education is really my passion. And I have two kiddos. I have a just recently turned 8-year-old and an 11-year-old. So we have elementary and middle school covered. And I just kind of want to make sure that the education that I know they're currently receiving continues to be what's there for years and years to come, long after they're out of our system anymore. And, I threw my name in the hat years ago for District G when Naomi got elected, and I loved that she was there. And so, when she moved and then I subsequently gotten appointed, I've just really enjoyed, the amount that I can give back to our community and the amount that I can contribute as an educator and have that lens as part of our board work.
Can you share a specific issue or topic that you'd like to tackle if you're reelected?
Well, I think the hot topic at the moment is our enrollment and school boundaries. That's something that we're just going to have to tackle. It's been years in the making, and we just haven't had, the right leadership to take those bold steps. Now, it's going to be a hard conversation, and it's going to take everybody to get it done. There's a lot of just really amazing programs that we offer. We obviously have wonderful students, wonderful families, wonderful educators. And so making sure that we honor what everybody needs, but also be respectful of people's taxpayer dollars, right? We can't just keep schools open just because it makes us feel good. We actually have to do that with fiscal responsibility too.
Jessica, what makes you uniquely qualified to help represent the school district?
Well, again, that eclectic teaching background that I was talking about earlier, gives me a really good lens in what it feels like to be in the classroom, right? And having two kiddos, and my oldest was a second grader and my youngest was in pre-K during the COVID years. So I understand how hard that transition has been. I also have seen firsthand, how their behavior and anxieties have changed and shifted due to all of those challenges. And I also am deeply connected to their school communities, right? So I understand what it feels like to know that your school might need to adjust. When we first moved here, actually, O'Day did not have, that's the elementary school my kids go to. O'Day didn't have strong enrollment. It does right now because our neighborhood has shifted. But at the time, not that long ago, that was one of the schools that probably would have been considered for consolidation. And, moving into a neighborhood, knowing that you just know that there's going to be hard decisions and you have to kind of trust your community. But in addition to those experiences, I originally have an engineering degree, if you can believe it. So geekiness is who I am. But with that comes a lot of really strong just problem solving, right? So while I understand that these topics are incredibly emotionally driven and we have strong feelings about our schools and our people, I also am very pragmatic at taking in all of the information, synthesizing it, and trying to figure out, okay, how do we honor as many people as we can? how do we get as much of all the good stuff that we already do in those solutions, but still at the end of the day, come up with a solution that works and keeps us strong for years down the line, not just right now.
Who do you consider a role model in the realm of public service, and what have you learned from them?
So I actually, through this process of being elected and being on the board for the last 2 years, I've gotten an opportunity to meet lots of our local officials. But I think the one that gives me the most joy and gives me kind of a trajectory of, okay, this is what being a civil servant looks like, is Jody Shadduck-McNally. She literally shows up everywhere. She knows what's going on in every municipality, in the school districts, as a county, just the level of information and detail that she is aware of, and yet still having so much empathy and compassion for people everywhere, right? It does not matter what your personal beliefs are, whether those are political beliefs or religious beliefs or just values as a person. She will honor them as best she can, and she takes it in, right? She really wants to represent our community as a whole. And so I aspire to have those same characteristics. I aspire for that to be how I'm seen by our community. I think what I've learned is, to do this job well, I have to be as many places as I possibly can. But the other piece of that is that I also have to make sure I'm talking to all of the people and not, just taking my information from one space and not just looking at it from my one lens, but making sure that I'm talking to every community that we would be impacting with our decisions. There's obviously room for improvement. I'm still learning, but I think I've made a lot of progress in 2 years.
Jessica, if you could have any superpower to help your community, what would it be?
So this is my favorite question that you were going to ask. And it's going to be kind of a cheesy start answer. I'm just going to say that up front. So I have been told countless times that I actually have a superpower, and that my superpower is giving really great hugs, which seems like a super cheesy superpower. But I think the reason that, my hugs make people are superpowers because it makes people feel better, it reduces that anxiety. And like I was saying earlier, we have big challenges to address, right? We have to do enrollment. We have to do our boundaries. And so if I can just release some of the tension from those decisions so that we get just to the brass tacks of problem solving it, so people can just say, okay, this is what's in the best interest of students overall. I would love to give literally every person in our community a deep hug to just be like, hey, let's center and just get to work.
What's one piece of advice that you've received but you didn't take and you wish that you had?
So it's funny. So I got these questions a while ago, right? And I started already thinking about that. And then the last 2 weeks have been, lots has happened, let's just say. So the advice that I think I've gotten a lot is to trust your community, which can be hard, right? Because as a board member, I get to see the whole picture and I get lots of details about all of the pieces of that picture. And so it's hard to trust that everyone else has all of the information they need to be able to have input on those decisions. But I also have to continue to take that advice. So, because as a doer, as a fixer, I can only do so much as one person, right? And while everybody might not have all of the information, the big picture ideas and the big picture information, they do have very detailed information about what's going to impact their school or their family. And if we only look at the big picture, then we lose some of that, right? Again, talking about boundaries and enrollment, I think when we try to make those big decisions, we lose that, a school is really impacted by their ILS program, right? And they need to keep that, or they're really impacted by a discovery program and they really need to make sure that they stay connected to their students in certain particular ways. And we honor all of a student's identity, not just, make it sound good and look nice. We really have to make sure we're looking at the focused pieces as well as those big picture ideas.
Jessica, where can we learn more about your campaign? And is there anything else that you wanted to tell somebody listening to this podcast?
Yeah, so you can find out more about my campaign at my website at jessicazamora.com. You can also find me on Facebook at Jessica Zamora for PSD. On my website is a ridiculous amount of information. I am exceptionally verbose. I've actually set my campaign manager on task to tell me how to get it down to manageable pieces, because if you start talking to me, you'll know that as long as you keep asking me questions, I will keep answering them. But that's the gist of it. And if anyone has specific questions, I'd love to hear from you and love to be able to have a chat.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you're enjoying this series of learning more about your candidates. It's so important just to get out there and vote, but to do so from a place of knowing who you're voting for and why you're voting for them, it's a really comforting thing. I'm Nick Armstrong, and I can't wait to see you next time.